Hi, Grace. How are you?
Well, it's so nice to see you.
It's so nice to see you. And thank you guys all for being here. We are actually over half of the Green Mountain Book Award Committee, which is awesome. So I'm so glad to have our committee members here, and so glad that you guys are here looking at what the Green Mountain Book Awards are. And we're going to talk a lot about ways that you could use them either in the classroom or getting kids interested in them. We're going to do some kind of more traditional book talk type of things, but we're also going to do some using kind of contemporary current technologies, help you get them in the hands of your kids. One thing that we'd like to say, GMBA, they are books for pleasure reading for kids. A lot of them definitely have classroom connections, and we would love people to use them in the classroom, but we do hope kids would pick them up for pleasure and really want to encourage people to have, young adults to have books for pleasure. Just quickly, I'm going to go through and explain who we are. I'm Kat Redis. I'm the chair of GMBA. I'm also the young adult librarian at Brownell Library.
I'm Erica Adams. I am the librarian at Lake Region Union High School.
I'm Jessica Langlois. I was the librarian at Proctor High School for the last few years.
I'm Margaret Woodruff, and I'm the director at the Charlotte Library.
And I'm Marilee Atley. I'm the librarian at Brattleboro Union High School.
I'm Matt Swinson. I am a secondary English teacher.
Awesome. So thank you guys so much for being here and showing your investment in reading for young adults. So we're going to take you through a few different things. And the first thing I'm going to talk about, I'm actually going to go backwards, and I'm going to go talk about last year's list, just because this is one of the coolest initiatives that I've heard of, and I am really proud to have been a part of this. And the lovely lady who started this is actually in the audience. You'll see her picture coming up. So one of the things is, GMBA, we vote like everybody else, but this is a great way to kind of get kids involved. EHS, Essex High School, started a March Madness for the GMBA books. And it was a tournament style. Each kid, this is Jill, who's right over there. This was Jill's brainchild, and so she works at the Essex High School Library and is just amazing. And as you said, as I say right there, she brought incredible ingenuity and creativity to this project. Renee Turvey, who also works at Essex High School, partnered with her on this to create this amazing program. Similar to basketball, 15 books. We paired them up tournament style, so everybody kind of randomly was assigned a partner book that they were going to go head-to-head in competition. One book automatically went to the next round because we had an odd number of books. Students were given choices of what books they wanted to represent, and they were guaranteed kind of to have one of those. And they were given the books over break, which gave them a nice time to be able to read, catch up, so they could have some information on that. And this is some of the promotional material. Oh. I think we're cutting off the top of that. That's okay, you guys can see. So this went out to the students kind of to let them know you could compete both as somebody who was representing a book or as an audience member. If you guessed the most numbers right, you got a prize as well. And they actually gave a $50 gift card, which is awesome. And this just tells you a little bit about what they did. So this is kind of the materials that the students got ahead of time. So round one, head-to-head book talks. They paired up. They represented their book. They had to give the most compelling book talk. And the audience voted on who compelled them most to read their book. And it was great because you actually saw kids getting up after and saying, oh, is that one in? Can I check that out? And so it was really cool to see that actual, they were compelled to read. And this is, they were doing rock, paper, scissors to see who went first. So competition was ripe. Round two, students read and chose an important passage from the book. They had to read it and explain why they chose it, so it was either a really important moment or it defined a character. And just want to show you, let's see, my link. Here we go. Ba-da-da. This link is so sorry to be scrouching. Oh, there we go.
Have to find just the spot.
That is a link.
I know, it's... This is just going to give you, this is one of our participants.
Well, what else is she?
This is the first teen ever to be a member of the GMBA committee also. This is Sarah. Oh, you can't hear her though. There we go.
She's bright enough to do really well, but socially, she has some real issues. She doesn't make friends easily. She's picked on by the school bully. Even that, she's just her own person, really strong little girl. And she kills giants. And so that's one thing that a lot of people pick on her. So I'm just going to read to you quickly what Barbara says about killing the nominees. With respect, Principal Marks, until you've actually fought a giant, until you've looked into its eyes and seen the horrors that follow behind them, until you've plunged your rosebud into the arteries and felt the hot wet spring of victory wash over you, intoxicated by the steaming perfume of spoken trails, you really have no right to judge me.
So that's Sarah. So I would like to say, well, I'll save that for later, but Sarah is the first teen who's ever been a member of the GMBA Committee. So she was on, she helped create the list that you guys are going to be introduced to today. Round 3, tech time. So students had to use some sort of technology component for this. They had to, and so you see 2 of the entries. This was the final 4. Hold still, they took the journal page, they photoshopped on top of it, added different things. To be graphic, the person added blood smears because there was cutting in the book, and then the other one is a representation of what the student thought Marcello's desk would look like for Marcello in the real world. And so students were asked to create a technology they could use, and this was also great because this gave a chance for, they could reach out, the library support staff was there and said, please let us know, we'd love to introduce you to new technologies. I'm just going to show you a brief portion of this, hopefully. Oh, it's grouchy. That was a photo story by Little Brother, but we're going to go on for the second. Okay, championship round. I Kill Giants versus Little Brother. So for the championship round, they had to dramatize an important scene from the book. And the students performed it in front of an audience who voted, and I just want to say, this is kind of the fun note here. Both finalists acted in each other's plays, and another fun note, even though one person was declared the official winner, the top 2 shared the prize. So it was really great sportsmanship. And so this is clearly not them doing Little Brother, this is from the Little Brother stage show, but they did that, and then they also, Barbara explained to her school counselor that she's made a new friend, not an imaginary one. So those were the scenes they depicted. And I Kill Giants won the first ever GMBA March Madness at EHS. And so it was just a really wonderful initiative. And I want to thank Jill, who's here, so we can give her a little round of applause. And I think this is a great process that could definitely be modeled in numerous schools, school settings, and I would love to actually see eventually us doing a statewide March Madness where we had different teams from schools competing and representing all the books, and so it's something to look forward to in the future. All right, I am going to call up Miss Marilee Adley. Oh, I cannot.
Yeah,
You're going to talk from there.
So I wasn't at the opening presentation this morning, but I understand that the presenter talked about tweets. And one of the things that we've thought about is how you can use Twitter in a few different ways to promote or encourage other use of GMBA. One of the things that the Twitter guidelines were saying is you want to promote a conversation. I don't know if any of you've read Catherine Fisher's wonderful Incarceron about some people who were born in a prison that's so big that no one knows where it begins or where it ends, but one of the boys has a memory of something better. And up on the outside of the prison is a young woman who wants to get in. So maybe you could start a conversation in a prison with no beginning and no end. How far would you go to find the light? Or another idea is just a teaser. I don't know if any of you read The Boy Who Couldn't Sleep and Never Had To by D.C. Pearson. Is about these 2 young men who are kind of outcasts, and together they create their own magical fantasy world that they've been dreaming about and thinking about. And one of the boys finds out that his friend has this very special ability to never sleep. And what does it really mean? And it sort of draws out this incredible new world that shows what kind of possibilities there are. And one of the quotes that got to me was, sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is not to let them apologize for how special they are, to pass themselves off as mediocre. Just an idea. Or maybe you can encourage your kids to just summarize a book in 142 characters. And it's tricky, right? So Amy and Roger's Epic Detour, certainly a fun adventure book for all sorts of people, but your dad just died, your mom is moving to New York, and now you have to drive across country with some stupid boy you've never met. If you like geography, or if you're interested in just a romance where some people you actually, they're not kick-ass heroines, they're not guys who are incredibly narcissistic, they're just 2 normal people, and what happens there.
Awesome, thank you, Marilee. And now we're going to go to Margaret Woodruff, who's going to talk to us about Ostrich Boys.
Well, I feel very fortunate that the two books I get to talk about are two books that everybody should read. Well, everybody should read every book on the GMBA list. But if you're short on time, this is definitely one of them. So this is three boys, the Ostrich Boys, who start their journey in Cleethorpes, England. Well, first of all, to set the stage, they're a group of four buddies, and one of the four is hit by a car while riding his bicycle, and he dies. And there's some question as to exactly what were the circumstances of the death, and that plays out as they come to terms with the fact that it wasn't just an accident. But what was so fascinating for me is they take a journey, another map book, if you will, from their hometown of Cleethorpes here on the English coast up to Ross, Scotland. Their buddy was named Ross. And not only do you get the details of their journey, they start on train, they end up in a car and motorbike, and some on foot. They run into a few obstacles along the way. But it sort of is a map of how they come to terms with their friend's death. And so since I do a lot of story times for preschool children, I had to have some props with me. This is my prop.
We love your props, Margaret.
So one way for me to think about telling the story of the book was to include the map, and if you take off all these fun little Velcro things, you can actually see their journey. But to me, this would be a way to spark a conversation about the book, or have the kids map out what details were important to them. And for me, it starts off, the book opens with them really wanting revenge. They are so furious with the kind of attention that their friend's death has received, and how everybody wants to be sad when they feel like some of the people who treated him badly don't deserve to be sad. So they are spray painting other people's property. Then they finally decide that what they need to do is take their friend Ross to Ross, Scotland. And so they take the urn with his ashes and travel along the way. And the rest of these are just sort of symbols of some of the objects that represent parts of the journey. So at one point, one of the characters is running through the train station and the map is flapping in his face, and to me that was sort of symptomatic of the kind of person that he was. There's some question about not wanting contact with anybody else while they're on this clandestine journey, but at one point somebody's cell phone rings, so it's clear that somebody's been communicating with somebody. They end up in a car when their travels don't go as they had originally planned, and there's a pivotal point where they're talking with the two older boys in the car about what happens when friendships change, and then that plays out later in the book as well. So this, to me, was just a way, just because you want to know what all these exciting things mean, I'm sure. So Travel Scrabble, the friend Kenny loses his backpack, and the Travel Scrabble game was in the backpack. And that seemed to be maybe more important to him than the fact that his train ticket was in the backpack. But anyway, we talked about the cell phone, the car. These two older boys give them a ride. They end up meeting with a group of gals coming back from some shopping. And those girls end up helping them complete their journey to Ross, Scotland, which ends with a kind of wacky motorbike chase. And the thing about this book is it's poignant. They're dealing with their friend's suicide, they finally realize. But it's almost like Monty Python. I mean, there's definitely an element of black humor in there that keeps you going, and you realize that's what's keeping them going as well as they come to terms with this. So that's that.
Could we pass that around, would you mind?
Oh, sure.
Just so people can see it up close. That would be great. Thanks, Matt. And Matt, while you're up, do you want to come over here because you're next?
Oh, I would love to.
Awesome. Matt Swinson, everybody. And we've got Bone Shaker.
All right. So, yeah, I think it messed up, didn't it?
It's all right.
All right, so I'm the Bone Shaker story by Sherry Priest. I'm talking more about steampunk, which is the subgenre that's Bone Shaker belongs to. And basically, not a lot of people have exposure to steampunk as a subgenre of fantasy science fiction. So I was going to give a brief little history of it. What is steampunk? Steampunk is a multimedia genre just because it's film, it's books, it's comic books, it's TV. It combines elements of science fiction, fantasy, alternate history, horror, speculative fiction, and the supernatural sometimes. And it's usually set in the Victorian era, 1800s, late 1800s, the Wild West, or even the post-apocalypse. And it's the main defining feature of steampunk is the low technology producing high technology results. So it's things like airships powered by steam, robots powered by cogs and gears, things like that. And this is a brief timeline of the evolution of steampunk. The first book that could be considered steampunk is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. It's this low technology producing a living being from a dead corpse. 1864 to 1901, you got Jules Verne and H.G. Wells writing a lot, and all of their stories can be pretty much summarized as being part of the steampunk subgenre. And the first movie to really be a steampunk movie is the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Disney. Then kind of jump. This is all from a website on Tor, the book publisher. They have a timeline there of all these things that led up to the evolution of steampunk. I just took the choicest bits, the real first pieces or standpoint places. Wild Wild West, first TV show to deal with anything resembling steampunk. Wolves of Willoughby is the first really children's kind of book for littler kids. It has some elements of alternate history, some weird machines and stuff like that. 1969, Captain Nemo and the Underwater City. Amicus Productions, they produced a lot of movies during that time. 1979 is Mad Max. That's the thing about steampunk is that it actually has a lot of subgenres to it, and dieselpunk is one of them.
That might be your new nickname. Matt Swinson, Dieselpunk.
Yeah. No, but Mad Max is the first movie that Dieselpunk is more modern technology in a post-apocalyptic setting where they have to scrabble together all these parts and cobble them together to make something working. Warhammer is a very it's a tabletop game with miniatures and stuff that people play a lot. It has elements of steampunk in it. And 1987 is actually the first time the term steampunk is coined by K.W. Jeter in a letter to one of his friends. The Difference Engine by William Gibson. William Gibson is obviously the pioneer of the cyberpunk, which is actually where steampunk gets its name. Northern Lights, which is The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. Very, very much a steampunk kind of alternate history retelling of England and stuff like that. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen by Alan Moore is the first steampunky comic book series. It's really great. He's a really good writer. Howl's Moving Castle is an anime. A lot of kids are into that now. So that's a really good way to connect kids to steampunk if they really liked Miyazaki's Howl's Moving Castle. World of Warcraft has elements of steampunk to it, and a lot of kids are into that. And really 2007 plus, this is a recent movement in literature and comics and things like that. And people treat it as a lifestyle. If you saw those pictures before, the cosplayers, people wearing costumes, people dress like that a lot. There's people that take it really seriously, wear those costumes all the time. And 2009, Sherry Priest wrote Bone Shaker, which is the book that made the list, and it's a really great book. Why would people want to read steampunk? It has mass appeal because it has so many elements of different fantasy, science fiction. It has horror elements to it sometimes, I just forgot the name of the book I'm talking about. Bone Shaker. Bone Shaker has zombies in it. Has a woman trying to save her son. There's lots of things that kids can get out of it. Aesthetics and style are really unique too. It's a lot of cogs and gears and oil and steam and all these and wood and chrome and brass, and it's not really something you see a lot. It's a nice go-between the urban fantasy, which is the kind of supernaturally twilighty kind of books, and the medieval fantasy, which is your Dungeons and Dragons type sword and sorcery, and it falls between those two. So it's a nice kind of breath of fresh air if you're tired of reading those two. It avoids many of the fancy cliches, so there's not a lot of like magic and fireballs and like wizards and princesses. And there's some really great authors that are starting to get into it too. Like I said, Philip. Yeah.
I think those books, the ones, I forget the author, it starts with Leviathan.
Westerfield's new books?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think those are steampunk?
Those are steampunk.
Yeah.
If what my friends here are saying is...
Absolutely. It's true. They definitely are.
I'm sorry, I haven't read them myself, so...
Okay.
I apologize.
Diesel punk approval.
Yeah, Diesel Punk, stamp of approval. So I actually contacted Sherry Priest, and she was kind enough to write back to me. I asked her what she thought young adults could get out of the story, and she wrote back to me and said, the book has gotten a lot of young adult crossover because of one of the protagonists is a 15-year-old boy trying to prove his father was innocent of a terrible crime. But most of the story belongs to his mother. Still, teenagers seem to like it. For some reason, teenage guys in particular really seem to like Angeline, the elderly Native American cross-dressing princess who throws knives and carries a shotgun, so go figure.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a really great book, and I think a lot of kids would get a lot out of it. I also, should I continue to my...
Machine of Death is coming later.
All right, I'm going away.
Diesel Punk, everybody! Woo!
Thank you.
Okay, Jess, you're up. And you... Which one do you want first?
That one.
That one.
Okay. So, another way to promote books, not only on GMBA, but any books that you want kids to get interested in. You may have seen, there's a lot of different memes out there, and they certainly come and go, but this one has been popular for a while, so you may have seen the Ryan Gosling memes. There's a lot of different ones, like basically any type of hobby or anything that people are interested in, there's a Ryan Gosling meme for it. But one in particular is the young adult one, so this is something that I just figure might be a good way to, like, you can find ones on here that people have already made, and so that might be a good way to like post to your Facebook or your website or Twitter or anything like that, or Tumblr. A lot of books that are popular with young adults are just referenced in here.
Right, oh, this.
Okay, my favorite one is, of course, this one. Yes. So a lot of the books that are on this upcoming list have been posted on here, but there's also really easy ways to make your own memes. And so not only can you use Ryan Gosling or any of the popular ones that are out there, you also can like make your own picture. Like there's meme creators, and so you can basically on Quick Meme, these are some of the most popular ones right now. Like there's different characters and they all have little names, and then people just post whatever, and you can just go to these and just caption them yourselves and do whatever. But there's also,
just if you can't see that website because it's cutting off the top, it's quickmeme.com.
yes. And so then you can also upload your own picture and then add the caption. So what I think would be a good promotional thing to do is like the same way that we make read posters sometimes with kids on them, like have kids pose for pictures and do a meme of them and just like make a poster out of it or put it on the website or something like that. So there you go.
Awesome. Awesome. Wonderful. Oh, I'm up. Okay. So most of the time we like to share stuff that we're doing, but sometimes people do things really well for us. So Room is one of the best books I've read in years. It's one of my favorite books. Diesel Punk also agrees over there. So Room, for those of you who don't know, it's a really moving and terrifying story about a young boy, Jack, and his mom, who have lived in Room. Jack has lived in Room his whole life. He's 5 years old. And you start to realize why he has lived in Room and what that means to him. And how phenomenal a mother his mom really is. So this is the Room website. So this is, for those of you who can't see, it's called roomthebook.com. And it says, welcome to Room. And you go inside Room, and this would be like the room Jack created. So it's built like a little cardboard room that Jack has made in Room, and it talks to you.
In wardrobe, I always try to squeeze my eyes tight and switch off fast so I don't hear old Nick come. Then I'll wake up, and it'll be the morning, and I'll be in bed with Ma having some, and everything okay.
So, these are different quotes from the books.
I bounce on bed. I'm Jack the Giant Killer in his 7-league boots.
And each of these is a link to Room, Why, and How. So a lot of people said, is this based on a true story? Is it based on fiction? And she explains her research there on what Emma Donoghue explains why she wrote Room and what it was inspired by. You can also download the creepy little kid font that Jack writes in. So you could do promotional materials with that. It also talks about author history. It has book talks, book questions, access to tons of different things. So there's a lot of interactive capabilities.
The persons in TV are made just of colors.
So it's just a great interactive site that I think kids would really enjoy playing with, and it'd be really neat. It's also a great model for, they could create their own kind of dioramas based on this. They actually they give you a blueprint for what Room actually is, and the closeness and claustrophobia that actually is this space was really kind of hit home for me when I saw this graphic. So just a great site to check out, really well done. And now, Marilee for Shipbreaker.
When we first started this process, everybody had to do a book talk, sort of like round one of the March Madness, to convince each other, what we should read. And I'm imagining that quite a few of it have had a chance to read Shipbreaker by Paolo Bacigalupi. It won the Prince Award, so I'm sure that it's probably on your radar. I read an interview with the author of this book, and he talks about how the world he creates in this story is what he calls our accidental future, the one where we haven't paid enough attention and things got out of hand. And boy, did they. Like all those other dystopian novels that you've been reading, this world is post-oil, the oceans have risen and covered the city, and the boy in this book, Naylor, is one of the poorest of the poor. And the way he makes his living is he is among a group of scavengers that scavenge copper and other precious metals out of the oil tankers that have been scuttled on the Gulf Coast. And the good thing about Naylor is he's real small and wiry, so he can get in those ducts and he can pull that copper wiring out, but it's pitch black in there, and all he has is a little LED sort of mark on his forehead so he can see a green glow and figure his way out. But if he can get enough of that copper wiring to get back and sell to the guy who buys his stuff, he can eke out this miserable living for one more day. And then one day he's out walking on the beach, and this beautiful clipper ship has capsized. And he thinks, this is it. I go in there and I can scavenge anything, and my life is 1,000% better. And he gets in, and there's gold-plated plates, there's silverware that's more money than he's ever seen in his life. And he goes into this one room, and there's a dead girl lying on the floor. And on her fingers, she has these 5 gold rings. And he knows that if he can get those rings, his life is made. And he goes over and he starts to pull them off, but her fingers are swollen from being in the water. So he takes out his knife, and he's going to cut those fingers off. And she moves. And now what? Shipbreaker. It's a barn burner. You got to try it.
Also, it's a diesel pump. No, but seriously, this book and Bone and Shaker probably go very well together. If you like one, you'll like the other, for kids especially.
Okay, Erica.
So I just have to say, I think Marilee, her voice adds to the appeal of her book talks. You're just like so drawn in. Like, I have to read whatever she tells me to read. So I'm talking about The Replacement by Brenna Yevnoff. Has anybody read it or heard of it? Oh, good, because it's awesome. So imagine that you're a town, and if in every 7 years you give up one little baby, and it's replaced by a changeling, you can go from having the trashiest, awful city, no community, nobody's happy, nobody's successful, to having this city of prosperity, of security. Your community can live and be happy, your children grow and are happy. So this one town in the book, The Replacement, has made this agreement and doesn't talk about it. No one mentions it. The changelings usually die within their first year, so no one has to really raise some weird fairy child. However, what happens if one of them lived? And that is the star of our book, and now his name just slipped from my mind, but Mackie, one of the changelings actually lived, and he has always grown up knowing he's different. And I kind of like this picture because he looks sort of fairyish, don't you think? With those, his eyes are like, and he's confused because he's never, nobody says it outright, like why. They all know who he is and what he is, but he doesn't. But he always knows that he's been different. So what happens? What happens is he starts to see these weird things. He starts to feel weird things. He starts hearing little bits and pieces that he starts putting together, that his world is not the world he thought it was, and that there's another world that exists at the same time as his. And he is all of a sudden given this position to either align with one of them, save a person's life, and sort of choose who is he going to identify with and how is he going to make this decision. Totally gripping, and it's like a fairy tale retold in a modern setting. So I think, with the new TV shows that are coming out, there's a few other books that have been written in the same way, taking old fairy tales, retelling, kind of popular, easy connection to make for readers. But what I did, and you can do these QR code promotions with any book that you're trying to promote. They're super hot. I think adults are a little more into them than students are. But when I started doing them at my school, this is what I started with, literally. I didn't put words on them. I just had a student helper of mine make little stickers that we plastered around the school. And students would be like, what are these things? They had no idea, because if they knew that you had to go and download this little app on your smartphone to have a QR reader, they were like, okay, wait. I think some of them had to go through this thought process of like, what do I do to figure out what this is? Where have I seen this before? So a little critical thinking happened unintentionally. I just wanted to get them intrigued. And so these lead places, if any of you have a QR code reader app, you could scan this right now and see where it would take you. They're free. The generators are free. Literally, it's almost like this mem creator. You just type in free QR code generator. You'll pull up like 5 sites. So simple, easy to make. Type in text, paste text, put URLs, really easy. But so I started with just QR codes. So students started looking, using their phones, reading them. I stepped it up a notch and had like kind of catchy phrases that would connect directly to GMBA books, because I was really trying to promote GMBA. So this was for the replacement, that I just put these weird phrases and they'd be like, what are these even talking about? But this takes you to one of my favorite review sites, which is called Reading Rants. And it's pretty much snarky, funny, witty, edgy reviews, not your typical Amazon boring, like, school book journal says this book is great for kids. It's more like teens or younger teachers just having fun, kind of promoting some off-the-radar books. So that's where that link goes.
Can you say the name of that again?
I sure can. It's readingrants.com. And then I also did posters like this, so that it might look kind of graphic, and they'd be like, whoa. It's eye-catching. QR codes are catchy, they're intriguing, they're eye-grabbing, because you kind of can make them either any size you want. You can add them onto any piece of material. You can put them on envelopes. You can put them on stickers. You can put them on bookmarks. And they can lead to anything you want them to say. I have, these are all in the GMBA books, but I also made them just talking about the GMBA in general to tell them, hey, you can vote, read this many books, get some prizes. I mean, you could even just do it for informational stuff about library hours. These things are just like everywhere, anywhere you want them to be, and that's what I just think they're awesome. Here's my works cited for all my pictures, and now I'll turn it over to whoever is next.
Matt's back. Okay. And Margaret, you're next.
Okay.
After
Ready?
Matt.
I'm lighting
Okay.
All right.
How's everybody doing? Excited about the new GMBA
Everyone
list?
stand up, stretch.
We are very excited about it.
Take a jump around.
I just want to, before Matt starts, I just want to give, we had a lot of new members this year, and 3 of them are here today, and I really just want to give them props for stepping up and saying, like, I'm willing to be here, I'm willing to promote this, I'm willing to step up my first year, and so thank you guys, and also thank you to the vets who are here, so.
You just told me to be here.
I did, I said, Matt, you're presenting.
All right. So Machine of Death is a collection of short stories about people who know how they will die. It's a really unique book, just because I think it's the only book of short stories we have on the list. Yep. So, where am I? All right. So, what is the Machine of Death? It's a collection of short stories. It has one subject. Basically, the Machine of Death is this machine that if you stick your finger in it, it pricks you, spits out a piece of paper, and a piece of paper says a very ambiguous saying, like just like a short phrase. It could be old age, could be drowning, could be anything. Now you have no idea what these mean. Old age could be you're gonna get shot by an old man as you break into his house. Drowning could be you go get a drink of water and like you fall over, or you pass out drunk into a pool of shallow water or something like that. And these are relatively unknown authors who do these things. It's a unique opportunity, and I'll explain why that is. Oh. Yeah, it's crowdsourced. That means that anyone can make a submission to this book. Students can submit stories to the people who put this book together, the editors. And I think that's really great. Broaches sensitive subjects such as cancer, HIV, has all suicide, all kinds of things. It's also really darkly funny in a lot of ways. It's a really great book.
Can I just say one thing? Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
So it's really funny. So we worked hard this year to balance the list and make it not entirely dark and full of like doom. And so people said, "Oh, what are some of the light books you have?" And I go, "Well, Machine of Death." And they said, "Wait, are you for real, Machine of Death?" And I actually, one of my coworkers took it home and goes, "I was wrong. It is absolutely hysterical." So while it is very dark in its subject matter, and even you've got chapter headings titled cancer and suicide and things like that, it is actually one of the more lighthearted books that's on the list. So just don't be tricked by the doomsday title. And
one of the other great things about the books is it has a Creative Commons copyright, which means that you can download the entire text for free. You do not have to pay for the book itself. Also, anyone can make submissions. That goes for art too. So this could be easily tied into an art class or a writing class. But like the Creative Commons copyright is really great because you can actually take the stories, you can change them as long as you don't use them for like a commercial purpose. So how can I use the book? machineofdeath.net is the website for the book. It has a lot of great things on it. It's where you submit stories, where you submit art. They actually just finished all the submissions for the second edition of the book, and they'll be making a third one, I believe. They also have a card game for card games. They have like little cards that have predictions on them, and you can actually send in, and they will send you a prediction. So if you have a bunch of students, I'm serious. If you send in like an envelope, they will send you back a prediction, and that can be really good for a writing prompt for teachers and things like that. All the kids get a prediction that they have to write about.
I have to ask, did you send an envelope?
I did not. No. I was going to, but I didn't think I'd have time for this. I probably will though. And all they want is a self-addressed envelope, and all they ask is that you include something. It could be a note, a poem, a drawing, or a piece of grass from your town is exactly what it says on the thing. It doesn't matter what it is as long as you send them something, at all.
Did you have a question?
Was there?
You can. I'm just looking at it right now. There's also a free podcast of all the.
There are.
stories.
There are authors. The authors of the stories. They do a podcast on the website as well, which is really. I listen to a couple of them. They're pretty funny and great. Also, the stories lend themselves really well for one-act plays. So if you have an active theater program, it'd be great to get the kids involved with that. Like they're so easy to translate into a simple one-act play, and they're really funny and they're really great. And they take very little setting up. So, and I think that was it for me for that.
And one of the cool things, this is one of the few books that I've ever come across where one of the main editors has an exclamation point in their name, so it's kind of fun.
I also did contact the editors for this, and they were really excited to find out they were on the GMBA. So
we've actually we've had some really great feedback from the authors. This list we've already heard, I think, from at least 3 of the authors. Matt has contacted 2, and Brian Catcher from Almost Perfect that Margaret's going to talk about actually posted on his website that he was so proud to be part of GMBA, and then we wrote to him and he's contacted us. So really great conversations that we're having, and I think it shows you that if you reach out to authors, they don't always ignore you. So so we've had some really very positive interactions. And now Margaret is going to do magic.
Yeah, that's me. Magic. Well, you might wonder what a jar of red cabbage juice has to do with our next book, which is not either of those titles. There we go, Almost Perfect. Which starts off with a high school senior, Logan, who is despairing over the breakup with his girlfriend and sort of wondering how he's going to get through his senior year. His sister's gone off to college. His family situation is fine, but they're not wealthy, and all of these things that come into play when you're in high school and how important all those social status markers matter. But what he's about to find out is you never know what's coming, and what you might see on the surface can be very different from what's inside, and that might force you to look at yourself and see what's inside. So I was assigned to do some human chemistry. I decided I wouldn't draw any blood or anything, and my 11-year-old daughter had a lot of fun helping me with this last night. So I have, here we are, all of our typical selves, walking down the hall of the high school. We all look the same, hard to tell what anybody is. Until something might happen that forces you to confront what's inside of you. Oh, my spoon got lost away. Anyway. Or what's inside somebody else. So I'm going to see if I can make this happen now. It's going to be a bummer if it doesn't work. So anyway, here you are walking down the hall of your high school, or you go into your high school science class, and wow, there's this really attractive girl, and you feel some connection, being Logan, or anybody. And events play out such that you have to confront your feelings for this girl, as well as how you feel about some larger social issues. And so I thought I would sort of demonstrate that as here you are, you're Logan, and keep your fingers crossed for me. Is it going to turn? Yes, it's working. So here you are with your first confrontation with Sage, this girl that you like, and it's attraction, say. And then you realize, well, in fact, Sage isn't exactly what you thought she was. So you have to deal with that a little bit, which might bring out another side of you. Sorry for my containers are not working. Everybody see it's green and purple. And then by the end of the book, Logan's realizing there's a lot of stuff that he doesn't know about himself, but he's realizing that that's part of growing up, is confronting these feelings and his responses, and that's something we all have to live with. I think Almost Perfect is a book that everybody should read. I feel like it gives high schoolers sort of a realistic grounding in everybody's going to have a different reaction, to to different situations, but that we are all people and we all have to learn to live together. So that's my presentation.
Beautiful. Jess,
I've got more paper dolls and stuff if people want to come up.
Play. Jess, while I am setting up a couple of videos, do you just want to give like one or two sentences about Anna and about Revolution?
Yes.
Do you feel good about that?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, Anna and the French Kiss. Is it possible for home to be a person and not a place? Anna is dropped off by her famous author father at a boarding school in Paris for her senior year of high school. Never mind that the only word of French she knows is oui, and she has just barely learned how to spell it correctly. Never mind that she has a great life in Atlanta with a crush and a job and a best friend. But then she meets Etienne Sinclair, a fellow senior who has it all, and falls for him hard. But Anna can't forget that not only does Sinclair have a girlfriend, but her new friend at school also harbors a crush for this perfect boy. As she tries to navigate the year by ignoring her crush, Anna realizes just why Paris is called the City of Love.
Revolution, that was beautiful. How poetic you are.
So I just think it's interesting that we have two books this year where teenagers are unwillingly sent to Paris.
Paris.
Because we all know how horrible that would be. Andy Alpers is all bad attitude, sharp edges, and lots of meds. Completely broken by her brother's death 2 years prior, Andy's grades are failing and she may be kicked out of her prestigious New York private school. Andy's world-renowned geneticist father ditched her and her mother for another life, and Andy resents him for it. When Dad learns that Andy is close to being expelled, he drags her to Paris, where he's trying to prove whether or not a preserved heart belongs to Louis Charles, son of Marie Antoinette. This is her last chance to finish her senior thesis, a requirement for graduation. She's really into music, and her thesis involves a famous Parisian musician. While not slaving over her project or hanging out with a handsome Parisian musician, she pores over a secret diary she discovered, a diary written by Louis Charles' companion. Will Andy discover the truth behind the preserved heart and the tale of Louis Charles? Will she find a way to mend her own heart?
Good questions. Lovely questions. So for those of you who've been to these before, you know that I normally make videos for all of the books with my teens. And I'm doing that again this year. I'm not going to show you them all today, but per request, they are now going to be separate videos so they can be used one at a time. And we now are going to have a GMBA Vermont YouTube channel. So you can go right to YouTube, you can access them right there. There'll be a link to it on DOL eventually. I made this 2 nights ago, so it's very new. But it's just GMBA Vermont is space Vermont is the channel. So the committee will be able to put there, and eventually I would love to also have, people could submit to me videos that their teens have made as well, and we could submit those to the channel. But this is great, so that if you want a quick video to access a book, to share, you'll go right there and they'll be there for you. Some of them are 40 seconds, some of them are a few minutes. And so I'm just going to share a couple of them with you. This is The Boy Who Couldn't Sleep and Never Had to.
The Boy Who Couldn't Sleep and Never Had to.
I'm so loud.
The world had something in its pure, unadulterated form, and I effed up, and now it's accessible to everybody. The world as it isn't, it will be. And a little bit of that stuff that's in me now, a little bit of Eric that has let me stay up all night writing this down without once feeling tired. And the messed up thing is that the kid who could have told it way better than I could is gone. A kid who dreamed so hard it exploded from his head and into the world, promising everything. And I sold him out hard. The only hope I have left is that if I take enough of this stuff, I'll push myself to Eric's levels really fast, and he'll be back. He won't materialize. Suddenly he will have been here all along. I'll turn around, and he'll be standing there, a nerd standing over my desk. And I can tell him how sorry I am.
So that's that one. I'll show you just a couple more. What? Very Fight Clubby, yes. Dun da da da. Let's see. Let's do. This one is a little bit longer than what I would normally do, but I love Machine of Death. So we'll show this one.
The machine had been invented a few years ago. A machine that could tell from just a sample of your blood how you were going to die. It didn't give you the date, and it didn't give you specifics. It just spat out a sliver of paper upon which were printed, in careful block letters, the words drowned, or cancer, or old age, or choked on a handful of popcorn, and let people know how they were going to die. The problem with the machine is that nobody really knew how it worked, which wouldn't actually have been that much of a problem if the machine worked as well as we wished it would. But the machine was frustratingly vague in its predictions, dark and seemingly delighting in the ambiguities of language. Old age, it had already turned out, could mean either dying of natural causes or being shot by a bedridden man in a botched home invasion. The machine captured that old world sense of irony and death. You can know how it's going to happen, but you'll still be surprised when it does. Don't look at us.
It's my birthday.
Hey, you. So did you get your stuff yet?
After school.
If you get your C of D and it's crashing, anything, plane, car, bike, hot freaking air balloon, whatever, you come back and talk to me, alright? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
This is Murphy. I will have you know that I am to be torn apart and devoured by lions.
Excuse me?
I am to be torn apart and devoured by lions.
I'm sorry. Weren't you just talking to me about insurance a moment ago?
I was. Now I'm talking about lions. Did you know that an adult male lion can consume up to 75 pounds of meat in a single meal? And that said meal will often have to last him an entire week?
I did not.
That'd be 2 whole meals out of me alone. I mean, I'm guesstimating a bit, but because I'm not made entirely of meat.
Well, who is?
Exactly. For one thing, there's the matter of bones. I'm not quite certain how much my bones weigh. Lions don't eat bones. They leave them behind for the hyenas to consume. But you see, that doesn't matter as much to me, Mrs. Murphy, because I am to be torn apart and devoured by lions, not hyenas.
So you said.
I will be long dead before the hyenas ever get a hold of me.
They go on for a little bit. I'm just gonna pause. We're getting to the end. I want to show you one more, but I need to load it. And if you guys have any questions for me or anybody on the committee or comments, feel free to do that while I'm loading this, and we'd love to hear from you. There are a couple books we didn't go over today. Everything is in the handbook. It's happening. We'll pause. Any questions? Yeah.
No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that there were handouts in the back.
Perfect.
Now I tell you, I know. There's a handbook that this wonderful committee made with a couple of pages on each of the books. These are master lists, and there's bunches of bookmarks for you to take for your kids.
Your question, sir?
Oh, thanks. I'm wondering if any of you have recommendations of what to use to have students do their own book trailers. I've used a couple different things, and they all have kind of their own weirdnesses, and just if you have recommendations about.
I know an easy one. Animoto is a pretty easy one that has some built-in things and you can do a lot for free. I know Photo Story is one that they used at EHS for the tech components of it, and the link was broken, but the person who won that round for that created a great photo story, was able to incorporate music and images and text, and was able to tell a really great story using Photo Story. So those would be 2 that I would suggest.
I'd say iMovie is okay, but it can get tricky.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a learning curve as well. I think it gets easier once you've gone through all the little snafus.
And Windows Media Maker, or Movie Maker, is pretty simple and straightforward. So.
Is it free?
Most PCs come, if you have Windows, it's generally loaded on there already.
All the ones I do are on iMovie, because I use my personal computer, which is Mac, so it depends on what access you have. So.
Yeah, Macs, that's the...
Yeah, that's the Windows Media Player version.
Or
yeah.
Maker, so.
Yeah. So just since it's loaded, I'll show this to you while we're here.
Mommy, it's Dora. Dora's here.
Hi, I'm Dora.
Hi, Dora. It's me, Jack.
It's Christmas Eve, and Santa's coming to bring us presents. Do you like presents?
Yeah.
Me too. I have a present for you, Dora. It has rainbow wrapping. Can you find Dora's present?
It's right there. Read that.
Right.
Oh, sorry, TV.
Come on, Jack. We have to do our personal fitness. Come on.
Hungry. All we have left is green beans, Jack. Green beans are the worst. I know you don't like them, but we have to wait until Sunday. That's all we have left. We have to wait until he brings us more groceries for the Sunday treat. And Dylan the Digger. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
that's just another one. So those will be all there on GMBA Vermont. Are there any other questions before we wrap up? Thoughts, questions?
Concerns.
Concerns about our stability.
Anger.
Well, thank you guys so much for being part of this. Thank you, committee, for your amazing work on this. And we're around. Please feel free to contact us if you ever have any questions. We would love to have conversations virtually and in person with you. So definitely. Thanks so much, guys.